Hello everybody and welcome to the latest episode of the Viking Chats podcast, and I'm delighted to be joined today by none other than Mr. Matt Giggs. Matt, buddy, how you doing?
Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Good to see you. That's the first time I've been here.
So welcome to the studio room, the multitude of things. Box fries.
Not another drinks cabinet then. Like,
No. It's funny. Whenever I do like demos, webinars, there, people always like, "Oh, that's a really cool like image backdrop. Where did you get it from?" I'm like, "No, it's not an image backdrop. I have to come back and like wave a bottle of tequila or something, be like, it's real." I had someone the other day being like, "Is that a real record player?" I was like, "Yes, it is."
I didn't even see that.
So
obviously the helmet's there.
Well, of course, But yeah, this is our little space where we do stuff. It's nice, but yeah, this is where we hide all the paperwork that we pretend our agency doesn't have. No, in true form, as you know, it is all paperwork. Files. But yeah, it's all the stuff.
Yeah.
Once every 12 or 18 months, as least often as I can, I pull this open and be like, right, what's past the 7-year mark? What can we do the shredder collection for? And thankfully it is going down. So once that is cleared, because everything now is digital, God knows what we'll do with that. Like you said, probably more alcohol. So look, for those living under a rock and who haven't come across the Gigster, tell us a little about you, a little bit about your journey. How did you fall, as most of us do, into property, or were you one of those slightly weirdos that is like 5, 6, 7? It's like, I'm going to sell houses.
No. I literally. So I came out playing football. So I played football till I was 19.
So you played it like semi-pro, right?
Yeah. So I was at Peterborough United as an apprentice and kind of exited there. Classic. Thought that I could go to another club, maybe get some more money and all of that kind of stuff, which was just what you do when you're 18, 19, impatient.
Well, you've got to have the belief, right? Because Angie and I were talking about this earlier. We were, you've got to have that self-belief, but it's tempering it a little bit.
There was so much I could have done more where I was. But it was just one of those situations. As I was walking out the ground the day that they said they're not offering contracts until the summer, I kind of thought, shit, what have I done? So that was the end of that. And that was the end of that, really. I fell into more local semi-pro football, which was great. My mum was the one that got me into estate agencies. Was
she an agent?
No, her brother was in London. He worked at like Harrods Estates, all that kind of stuff. So he'd recommended, because I was not working, he said, look, you should get into a state agency.
You don't need to train. You could just
fucking do it. It's easy. No. But he helped me out.
But and we'll, obviously I don't want to cut off your story, but we'll touch on this after. Yeah. I find this debate interesting with the whole Roper regulated agent thing. So.
Yeah, good point. Well, so basically I saw my mum found in the advert in the newspaper clipping saying sales negotiator, and so I walked into the local office for Taylor's Country.
And where was local? Where were you?
St Neots in Cambridgeshire, and walked in, got looked up and down, didn't have a driving licence, which you were supposed to have, and I managed to get into an interview.
Ditto.
And then it evolved into 3 interviews, a literacy and numeracy test, which the manager helped me with, and I got offered a job.
I love that.
And the area director lent me £1,000 to get a car.
Wow! Now that's faith.
Absolute legend, really. And I passed the test 3 months later. My basic salary went up from £6,000 to £8,000. It was like I was in the money, and then I paid him back, and that was the start. So I was at Taylor's for about a year, and then I got offered from where I was playing football. An independent estate agent was in the same team. He was in Bedford. He offered me to come in, and literally it was a case of going to work there for a couple of years, because he said you can have Saturdays off, play football.
Bounce around a bit.
So, that's great. He didn't. I didn't. And
it was a lie.
But I was earning good money, and it was all it all seemed great at that age. And then I went back to Taylor's for the career path. Got on that. Went up to director, managing 14 offices. Left there when I kind of felt that it wasn't going in the direction that I felt was good for me.
Well, where do you go from there, right? It really has to be like...
Well, the higher you go up, the more you realise you want to go back down again.
You come away from agency, I think, particularly in the bigger corporates, right? I mean, I say that with zero experience. I've never worked within a corporate agency.
It is, you know, it was very much about the numbers. It was very much about KPIs. And the regional role, which I started there in Milton Keynes, which was an area I was unfamiliar with, was all about going around the offices, influence, inspire, motivate, have good conversations. And unlike Steph Walker's quotes about regional managers, you know, you would go round and you'd help the branch managers to get towards their targets. And it was really enjoyable. I got a great area. Many of the guys I'm in touch with now. It was a really special time. But when when the financial crisis hit, our area really excelled. Not necessarily on turnover, because we were in a shrinking market, but our profit levels per performance were really good. So you then get in that arena, if you're doing really well, you get more given to you. Which on one hand sounds really great. On the other hand, nothing really changed financially. So you just doubled your workload, basically. And
you're great. We're going to give you so-and-so's work.
There's a nice little title to go with it.
Oh, they do love their titles.
And it was good. I learnt a hell of a lot there. Nothing but good things to say. And one of the things that became clear was that I either left the industry because I was really unhappy with the last year or two there, because it felt like you were just a robot. You were in a machine. It really felt like a machine. And I don't want to be a machine, if I'm being completely honest.
Who does, really?
You know,
I don't know anyone who
you've got to do that. And it was just a bit like, this isn't for me anymore. So I ended up leaving, setting up on my own, got a loan from a pal.
And was that very much the idea? You left to set up, or did you leave and then be like, what the fuck am I going to do?
No, I started the prep a year before, a good year before. So that was exciting but hard work, because back then, when you're opening a new business, not going self-employed as such, it was, though you are self-employed, it was a limited company. I was in partnership with a guy who was a silent director. He put the money up, I put the experience and the credibility up. And that's where it all kind of began. Year one went blisteringly well. I bought his shares out and then took it forward from there. And then as we evolved, it just seemed like a good idea to start partnerships with other people that I knew within the industry that wanted to do what I did before.
So that was never the original idea?
No,
the original idea was never to do the gigs and?
No.
It was always to build the gigs empire?
Yeah, that's it. And I think we're actually going back to that in terms of to get the model more scalable, so actually we can, without high costs, because to get an office anywhere with rent rates, utilities, employment costs, it's just 2 years of fuck, you know.
Well, most businesses work on the basis that, you know, if a new office breaks even within 3 years, you're kind of doing well, and that's a big commitment every time you open an office.
You know, and what I did with my partners, because they were all coming out of really good positions and good income, it was very difficult for them to take the hit for 12 months. So I offered them almost like a guarantee, but we set ourselves goals where the dividend, if you like, was covered by the net profit in year one, and we achieved it, and we did, and I'm really proud of that. But I don't think that's as achievable now. There's more competitors, it's more costly to do, and you know, when you're talking about a new subscription for Rightmove,
do you think it's definitely more expensive now? Like, you don't have to have a shop anymore.
Well, no. So we never went into the high street ever. None of our offices were in the high street. What I mean, I suppose, by that, it's the costs of the operations. It's the costs of marketing, and actually, it's more a case of, do we need to do all of these things, or do we now, which is what we're going to be doing, is build more partnerships with people? Because we've got employees, or I've got business partners. In the middle, there's the option of being an employed partner or a self-employed partner, and that's what we're rolling out next year. But in the last 10 years, I've gone and used my experience from over the years to help agents around the country and go and do mentoring and training with teams. And that's been...
Sorry, mate.
That's right. That's been something I've enjoyed. I've really enjoyed that. But I need to probably just go back to base camp, no pun intended, and do more in my business and get get that really to the place where, you know, I've just turned 50, just to put that out there. Well, you kind of think to yourself, what do I want to do?
A day over 49.
Oh, you are so kind. 1 year is very kind. But I just think you kind of get to a point where you think, well, look, I've worked with great guys outside of my company, and I've got great people inside the company. Got really good people. And I think, you know, the mission for us is to align it. Well, it's very difficult to align different brands and different businesses. So we've got some big work to do there.
I think what's really interesting is there's definitely, and look, we've seen it with the ascendancy of your EXPs and your TA UKs and all that sort of stuff. There's a lot of people out there who are really good agents.
Yes.
They really want to go off and kind of do their own thing. But they're not necessarily what I would term like full-fledged business people. They're just very competent agents, and they look at that year end, how much have I banked for the business, how much am I walking away with? And when you're really good, we know when you're really good, that's quite a hard sum to look at. And you look at your promises of 80% and...
Well, this is the thing is, we won't need to go as high as paying that amount of percentage out. And I mean this as in, what we're looking to give within Cambridgeshire is we've got a huge amount of brand awareness, a huge amount of data, a huge amount of valuation leads, a huge amount of business, which we're almost going to carve up and share amongst the people that are in the existing business and the ones that join. So in other words, they haven't got to go through the pain of not having clients.
But this is the thing, they want that. Over the years, I've seen quite a few people who've been at either like uber independents, or they've been at your kind of blue chip corporates, your KFHs, your Foxtons, whatever, and they've been really good negs, but they've kind of worked in an environment where there are these incredible systems and softwares and processes. There's been 20, 30, 50 years of brand building sat behind that, you know, and they're used to being in an office where the phone rings off the hook and where the leads are just constant and they just do it.
Well, the conditions.
And then they're like, I can do this. And then they go out and they're like, where the fuck are all the leads?
Well, look, as far as I'm aware,
I can't find the, can't get the clients to get the...
That is a major reason why I believe a lot of them, it's not working out for people that first year or two. And they're not earning anywhere near what they left in year one. So in year one of being self-employed to their final year of being employed, the gap's just too big in terms of income.
I took a massive pay cut for about 5 years.
Yeah. And you've got to be prepared to do it.
It was about 5 years before we got to paying ourselves kind of what we were earning before.
Yeah, and it takes a lot of guts, a lot of courage. So what we're probably looking, just in the nicest possible ways, is actually to make that a softer landing without handing it on a plate as such, but to help agents to get off the ground faster with a bit more flexibility, but we are going to retain a fair amount of accountability with them, because I know how much accountability has helped me over the years when I've had follow-ups. And I don't say accountability, I don't mean micromanagement. I'm interested in that. I'm also not interested in working with people that need motivating.
No, exactly. You've got to want this. I'm not here to
I don't want people around me that
call you up every morning and be like, come on, let's do this.
I don't want to be around people that need to be told what to do. Like, if you're coming into sales, which we are in, you have to be able to service people's needs, provide solutions, be consistent and be disciplined. You know, those things, you know, if you want to earn 100 grand, 80 grand, whatever the figure is, there are things you will need to do consistently. And if you're not willing to do it, then it's just not going to work out. So, you know, we're on an exciting journey. So to answer your question, that's what I'm up to.
But that's really cool. I think, we toyed with doing a model like that. And I still think, interestingly, like most of this needs to be happening predominantly in the sales environment. I think, for sure. And I think there is a logic to that. A lot of parts of the country, what you earn, sales and lettings, if you're successful, there is quite a gap there. Yeah. Whereas in London, different kettle of fish. Yeah. We earn big bucks doing lettings in London. And when you look at the client life cycle, when you look at 10 years of earnings versus selling a property over 10 years,
it's ridiculous.
We earn 3 times what a sales business does. So there's things to do there. But I think interestingly, we've had a similar thought about lettings. And particularly with it getting more regulated, more this, more that. It's
so we manage lettings as well.
People kind of want that plug and play on that side of things.
I just think we don't have to. The biggest challenge we've got is I've got agents who are technically business owners. They're small teams, a structure, process and systems, but actually they're still really just great agents, and actually they're more mentors than business owners. So the problem is, because they're not in the space to do more mentoring in our model, you're actually not developing this cohort around you and getting out of the way and actually saying, well, there is no glass ceiling. You know, if you want to build a team, build a team. If you want this, you want that. So we want to be able to facilitate agents to choose their pathway wisely. And even if it's employed to begin with, developing into self-employed, that's fine, because it's a lot easier to go into self-employed, commission only, if you have a pipeline.
Yeah.
Now, the reason why there has to be accountability is because if you're in sales, and I know a lot of salespeople like to do the easy stuff first, I prefer to go the other way. Let's get you good at the stuff that you need to do first, you know, and actually teach people to look at that in a slightly different way. So I honestly think we'll have about, 15, 20 agents around us in the first 12 months. Maybe half will go self-employed in the next 12 months, and maybe the other half will do it in the latter, in the second year. Either way, I know that they need to be thinking more independently.
Yeah.
They need to be thinking about what it is they want to achieve, what's their why, and so on and so forth.
And working backwards from that, what does that look like?
Yeah, totally.
Like you said, if I've got to earn 100 grand, what does the business look like?
Yeah, and we've got, my wife's a brilliant coach. She asks all the questions you don't want to be asked, and she's very supportive. She's a great listener and super observant. And then I've got Ollie, who's a 24-year in estate agent who has more knowledge than most people I've come across. And I've got Damien, who wears his heart on his sleeve, but he's super supportive. So we've got a nice blend and a nice mix to help the agents that are with us first get off the ground, make sure that they stay on track, which is always difficult when you're in our industry, because there's so many distractions.
It's the consistency, and it's the change of pace as well.
It is, but like I said about my age, I want the 10 years to be spent with people I want to work with, and I want to see them achieve what the directors have achieved, and actually, rather than limit it to just those guys being able to do it. And because if you're going to scale, you're going to have to put your hand in your pocket significantly to employ reasonable caliber to turn them from good agents to great agents. You know, it's a huge difference. And where we are at the moment in Cambridgeshire, a good agent will probably earn 40, 50 grand a year. In the nicest possible way, the great agents that I've worked with in the same area can earn up to 100,000 or even more. It's whether they really want to stay consistent and disciplined. It's not really a talent thing. And I was talking to Verona Frankish about this.
I think a lot of business is that, right? I think a lot of business, we like to tell ourselves otherwise.
Talent's not enough.
And, obviously you've got personality and brand and everything else and a little bit of luck chucked in there. But most businesses, fundamentally, it's the systems, it's the processes, it's the commitment, it's the boring shit.
Yeah. And because some people have got the gift of the gab or whatever it is, that's not really the benchmark of you being successful. Actually, it's more than that. What do you do consistently? And if you are consistent in this industry, whether it's talking to people, following up, communication, which I think if you're not a great communicator in sales, you are in the wrong industry.
You're giving yourself a hard job.
Absolutely. So what we're building is going to be around supporting those agents to be able to do that more, whether it's AI, automation, support systems, because actually what I have found by looking at our own business quite closely over the last 12, 18 months is that a lot of our salespeople, our agents, are in conversations for a third of the time, and they're spending a lot of their time doing stuff. But
when you actually look at where they add value to that stuff, it's tiny.
Yeah, massively.
Yeah, and that's something I've talked about for ages. You've got to get away from this mindset of operationally, we do it this way because it's always done that way, and I know it works. And it's like, great.
You're right, mate.
It works.
It's so
fantastic.
True.
It gets you from A to B, brilliant.
Yeah.
But is it the best way to go to A and B? Actually, if you sit down and take a look, No.
Well, you talk about the different self-employed models, and you know, they've all done their own ways, their own structures of growth, whether it's commission only, commission up front, this and this. We've looked at it and just thought to ourselves, well, you know, obviously we do want to grow across Cambridgeshire, and we've got pockets and areas where we've got some coverage, but not quite as much as we could have. So there's like a door open there, you know. And Ollie done this brilliantly for us, where we were based in St Neots and St Ives, which I know you probably don't know, but there's another town called Huntingdon, and we had some coverage there, and we were probably getting around 200 grand in fees across a year in that patch. Well, you know, we're up to 500,000-600,000 because we actually got some focus in that area. Ollie's led it with another guy called Deck, who's tremendous. And you look at it and you think to yourself, well, you know, within that area now, there's more opportunities for us to plug agents in and around.
You know, then that fringes you into...
And there's no challenge with no one knows who I am. It's actually, well, you've got the brand, which is going to support at least 50% of your revenue for the next 12 months. And then you've got your personality and your ability to go and do the job more than you currently are, because we're going to take some of the load away, which has held you back.
And look, so I think, you know, I want to bring it back to that bit, and I think it's relevant with everything we've talked about so far. And I touched on it doing an introduction. The whole Roper thing is kind of still kicking around again at the moment, right? We've got the Renters' Rights Act is now done and dusted. Government can now focus on what other complex things they can throw at our industry. Keep us on our toes. Just leave us alone for a bit. You're done. Come on, we've got Making Tax Digital in April, and we're still talking about MEs. Just leave us alone and do something else. But I know some people are really impassioned about Roper. You know, you've got your staunchest kind of property mark and RICS advocates. You know, and there is absolutely a place for professional standards within the industry. But one thing I keep coming back to is I can only name one person that I know who set out to be an agent, and you'll know exactly who this is, Megan. She's the only person I've ever met that, at least to mind, who was like, I always wanted to be an agent. My mum was an agent. I grew up as like in kind of an agent household, and that was always what I was going to do. Super passionate about it, super geeky. I'm like, that's great. That is not the fucking normal employee within an agency.
And I genuinely think like there is a serious challenge in attracting people to our industry.
Well, now more than ever. Now more than ever, and I think, you know, we've got to make it more appealing, but that is modernising the business. We've got to get rid of the grunt work that was there just for grunt work. You've got to, you know, give people kind of what they see as appealing elements of a job. So, and figuring out what that is bloody hard. If you figure it out, let me know. But no, it is, you know, there is a problem, and you know, historically, we've typically hired people from outside the industry. Partly because we found in lettings, it was very hard to find people who were experienced lettings people who hadn't been corrupted by the way they've been trained. And a massive part for us is attitude towards your residents or tenants. And that, to me, is still the most frustrating thing when I go to conferences, when I walk into an agent's office and have a chat, that default dismissal, demeanour, attitude towards tenants. And that is really hard to get away from. When you've been in a business and you've been in a business 2-3 years where it is perfectly acceptable within that office, obviously never in front of a client, but perfectly acceptable within that office to constantly talk disparagingly about your residents.
It says a lot, doesn't it?
It's hard to get away from. So we've, you know, we've taken lots of people from the services industry, lots of people who work at bars, restaurants. You know, I've always said everyone. I kind of feel like, forget national service. Obviously, we don't have it anymore. But make national service the fact that everyone has to go and work in the service sector for a year.
Oh my God,
Go and make everyone work in a restaurant or a bar or you know, get them to learn what it is about giving a shit, about giving the person what they want in the best possible way with a smile on your face.
Well, it's getting with a smile on your face. Well, it's getting to understand people. And, I think more of that could be encouraged.
Listening, building rapport, they're all the things that...
Actually, just the energy shifts and the swap of energy. And, I think that's a brilliant idea. Because there's a lot of people that, in the nicest possible way, are maybe not in work and getting paid for not being in work, which for some people that's the right thing. For many it's not.
And you see a lot of young people on programs today as well. There's a lot of anxiety.
There's no confidence building there, is there? You're actually getting further away from work rather than actually getting into something and developing your strengths and your skills and understanding what they are, because work gives you a purpose, and I think purpose is bloody important. If you haven't got a purpose, it's hard.
And work's huge. We spend more time, during the vast majority of our adult lives until you retire, whenever that is. We spend the lion's share of our working hours, of our waking hours rather, working, and with the people we work with. Anne and I have said for years, we jokingly refer to each other as our work wife and work husband, but we're very clear about the fact that we spend more time with each other. We spend more time awake with each other than we spend with our actual wives. And it's a really important thing to digest and understand. Like, I can't imagine, and look, I know there are people who find themselves in circumstances where there is no choice. I'm not saying like everyone has to love, everyone should be ecstatic in their work. That's not always possible, but you should aspire to find something you enjoy.
I think it starts at school, Kristjan. I think one of the biggest challenges we have is that schools there, for a lot of the wrong reasons, the people aren't coming out of education really being or believing in their core strengths and that self-awareness to know what are the types of jobs that I am going to go and enjoy, as opposed to, I've failed certain exams, I've not done as well to get into X university. For me, it's the wrong way round. I think the best way of getting people into work is to understand what is their best work, where is their best work going to be, as opposed to, sorry, I've got a bit of cramp there, as opposed to you're not successful at the age of 16 because you've not...
So social media is one of these things, right? This totally skewed, I think particularly for young people, this totally skewed perception of what success is, what it takes to achieve it, and the reality behind the hype. We've all seen those people with, the designer clothes and driving a Lamborghini and parked on a road, but it's all
is real.
It's all funded. It's all they've taken the car for a test drive from the showroom. They've pulled up on the front of a rental house that they know is vacant.
Here's the thing, and this is what I'd say to people that do get dragged along with comparisons on social medias, is when you go out into the real world and you actually open your eyes and lift your head, you'll see that stuff's not real. Right.
But I think that's the trouble for a lot of young people.
Yeah.
They're often not going into that real world. They've got their network of friends, their circle of influence, who are all sucked into this same social media influence, and it's a
weird thing, especially as a parent. Your biggest worry is, I mean, the world that they're in, not even entering. They've grown up with it. We never grew up with it, so we've got this ability to kind of know what life was like before. Whenever
I see life experience to be like, it's never as easy.
When I see something about the 80s and the 90s, I just get this deep sense of, what a great time.
Simpler time.
Just everything felt, there was less weight around everyone. Everyone just felt like, if you wanted to do this, go to the pub or have fun, everything just felt a little bit more like, it felt like you had a life as well as your work, or you were just in a space of presence most of the time.
Everyone's got an opinion now, right? Because that's another thing that social media has driven. Everyone's got an opinion on stuff, and but they feel everyone's allowed an opinion.
Yeah, of course.
But what social media has kind of emboldened is that it's taught some people that somehow their opinion's more important than someone else's, or how they find it. And it's like, no, mate, you're welcome to your opinion. You can think whatever the fuck you want, and you can share it.
Yeah.
But it's no more valid than what Sarah thinks, or Bob, or Sanjeev, or whatever. It doesn't. None of you are right. None of you are wrong, because they're just a fucking opinion. You're not that person. You've not walked in their shoes. You've not done what they've done. And even if you think you figure it out, you don't really know.
I think it's one of the reasons I've done the show, and I know I called it Showdown, which is slightly probably misleading because we haven't had many people get into a fight.
But Ben had the biggest fucking loving ever. I was just like, that was hilarious.
The main objective has always been just having a great conversation.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think we do have enough conversation. So what you're saying about social media is right. It's so easy to flippantly ignore someone's point and go into attack. And actually, what I think the world's in this really, I don't really like it, if I'm honest, this place of polarity.
Yeah, it's very,
Everything's kind of here. And I think most of us deep down are here.
Like, as you said, fake world, real world. I think real world, you can sit around a dining table with a bunch of people with very different like mindsets and opinions than you. But actually in a real world setting, do you know what? You can sit and you can have a laugh, you can have a beer, you can talk about business, you can talk about whatever. You might avoid some topics. But you can get on and you walk off and you go back to your lives and you do your different thing, and that's fine.
Yeah.
And then you've got the fake world where it's like, oh no, I can't talk to them because you know, whatever.
But I think what you said about certainly the younger generation, and I think there's a much larger percentage that aren't working. And I think it's not just about working, it's actually socializing, isn't it? It's taking away from the antisocial part of life. And they call it the virtual world, I suppose, but it's not reality.
No.
And if you're living outside of reality for too much of your time, you lose sense of reality. So you actually lose sense of what's real and what's not real. When you're in work, when I started, and I'm probably like yourself, I didn't have a clue what I was doing. I had people taking the piss out of me in the office that I was in. They probably don't even know how it kind of played on me at the time. You know, you speak in double negatives, or you don't look as smart here, or whatever. And you were being picked up a lot of the time, but it taught me resilience. It also taught me how to embed myself into a group of people that I wouldn't normally work with.
Yeah.
Like, I was used to hanging around with other people that were 19 or 20 at the time. I wasn't used to working with a 35, 45-year-old and being blended around different age groups, which is why when you're saying get into the service industry, my wife came out of the hospitality. She'd done various things in those kind of areas, and it taught her way more than university did, because you're not in your own echo chamber. You're in this place of, you have to kind of think differently and listen differently, and almost like, I would say, going back in time, you know, that first sort of couple of years in estate agency and working with adults and adult professionals, and then working with the public, it taught me massive amounts. And you know, like you said at the start, I didn't go into estate agency thinking this is going to be the career for me. I want to be a footballer or something else. Estate agency was going to be a stopgap.
Yeah.
And it stopped me for 30 years.
Yeah.
You know?
Knew acting hadn't worked out, was not going to spend the rest of my life, didn't enjoy it.
Yeah.
It wasn't the fact that I wasn't getting work. I spent 2 years utterly fucking miserable. Yeah. And so knew that I didn't want to do that. Had already got student debt. Had spent 2 years doing really shit bar jobs around, trying to go to auditions and doing all really badly paid theatre and film work here, there and everywhere I could get it. And then property was just this thing of, right, what can I fall into where there's an opportunity to make all right money? And we weren't talking six figures that day. No. It was like, if I can earn like 30 grand.
Yeah. Happy days.
Happy bloody days. But I don't have to go back to uni for that. I don't have to go and train for. And this comes back to this whole Roper conversation.
Yeah.
Because, you know, I was talking to Angie Cooney earlier today. And like I said, pretty much everybody I know in agency who have built incredible businesses and carved these amazing paths, almost everybody's journey starts the same way, which was they fell into agency, whether it was, you know, life circumstance or a mate from a football club or, you know, whatever it was. There was zero intention Even it wasn't even like, oh, you know what? There's 3 things I want to do, and one of those is property or agency. And my only concern, and a lot of those people, like yourself, your Spencer Lawrence's, so many people who are now kind of respected business and thought leaders within our industry. I wonder if they'd be in this industry if you had to have a degree to do it. Because I wouldn't be in this industry if I had to do a degree to do it. See, for the very criteria, I was like, been there, done that. I'm not doing another degree.
Do you know? I think it's such a really good point. And I've talked a lot recently about AI and EI, so emotional intelligence and artificial intelligence. And there's a big play on artificial intelligence. Everyone wants to talk about it. Everyone thinks it's going to solve problems, but it's also going to create a number of problems. But the one thing you can't walk away from is this ability that we have as humans to connect with other people. See, for me, that's the most important thing. It's your ability in our industry. It isn't about the number of sales you make. It's about the number of people you help. And if you help enough people, you'll make enough sales. It kind of goes in that order. Now, I said to you at the start, I sat down, I got put in front of a literacy and numeracy test, and I struggled. It's not where I'm not very good, if I'm honest, with the academic side of things. But you put me in front of someone, I'm really good. And I can help them, and I will help. Even a problem, give me a problem, I'll turn it into a solution. I love to help. So for me, I wouldn't have been able to get into this industry. No, for sure.
No, and that's the thing. Like I said, I had expensive education, but just broke my dad's heart to be like, so 10 years of really expensive boarding school, I'm going to go and be a professional actor. He was happy about that one. We want the professionalisation of our industry. Yes, there is an element that we do want that, but I wonder what the real reasons behind that are. Right, I think we would love our industry to be more respected, but is Roper going to fix that? Certainly not fucking overnight. It's not. No. And I would query if it's enforced like most of the regulation is within our industry now.
It feels to me that, the red tape for a business owner now has been horrendous. Like, if I go back to 10 years and look at our P&L, and I look at everything's gone up tenfold, like from Rightmove to office rent rates, everything else, and AML and compliance and X and Y, everything's gone up significantly. I don't see this helping the business as much as they may suggest it would. What I think there could be is an alternative to what they're trying to achieve. So they've got a goal, if that's the goal, which is to improve the industry, the standards, the reputation. There are other ways of getting there, I would say. However, I do get the point that, we are dealing with...
Does it need to be tiered?
I think
do we bring in professional standards, but like you have to have this degree to be a branch manager? Yeah,
I think there are elements...
Or to be a company director.
Yeah, there are elements where there has to be more logical responsibility and qualification, I would say.
That said, there are plenty of professions where, yes, you can go and do a degree, but you can also go and do an apprenticeship.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's the other thing. Maybe it would formalise how young people are onboarded, and it would bring a lot more mandatory structure of, dude, you've actually got to teach them about property. Yeah. You've actually got to teach them...
I just wonder how that would happen, though.
Yeah.
Because, most of the small businesses that I see, they do live a little bit hand to mouth. Their time is generally spent working in the business and not on the business, teaching others. And that's one of the challenges.
But often those businesses do little or no training because of that.
That's right.
But they find time for the things they have to do.
Yeah.
So if training becomes something that is no longer you should do it, it's you're fucking legally mandated to do it.
Yeah.
Will they find, as they do for everything else, the time to fit it in? And will they suddenly have staff who are, 20% more effective, and then all of a sudden they're no longer 6 months of the year going, fuck, can I pay my VAT bill?
Yeah.
Or can I pay the salaries? Or can I pay my own mortgage this year, this month, once I've paid everyone else out? Does that nudge the needle where, okay, they're not suddenly smashing it, but they're
building a business.
They're not just surviving.
No, and I think this is a really good point. So if you look at the tiered system, whereby it's not just a blanket exam or whatever, it's at different levels you've got to become not a master, but you've got to master-ish some of the elements of the role and those responsibilities as you grow. I like the idea of that. I do like the idea of it. And I do like the idea that business owners, if they have people within their teams, which they will do, there is an obligation then from their standpoint to make sure that they go through that journey. And, you know, one of the things I always talk to the guys that I mentor about is you have to work on the business. You can't just stay in it. You have to work on it. If you're not working on it, it's going to be a real problem. And working on it is developing the people around you, improving the processes and the systems. So this will almost force that change. So that I do think will be indirectly positive, but it's just...
But also understand your mindset, right? I mean, that's why Anne and I work really well. Yeah. Like, she is a minutiae detail, day-to-day monster. Like, she is so on top of the details that you have to be to run a business.
Yeah.
Not my bag.
No.
Not my bag. I am more big picture. Where are we going? Where are we heading? Where, you know, how are we getting there? Some of it, the soft stuff. What do we look like? You know, what's the terminology? What's our language? All this sort of stuff. And some of it, the more, you know, objective, like kind of business-minded stuff. But that's why we've worked. Yeah. I couldn't have built this without her.
No.
I would have got myself into all sorts of trouble, I think.
That's a good admission, though, isn't it?
Because with lettings, you're responsible for, you know, you handle so much of other people's money.
Yeah.
You know, we look at our business and we're a substantial six-figure business, but we handle 10 million quid a year? Like more. I think it's more than that. Actually, no, I think that's way off. I think I did the figures the other day. I think it's more like 25 million pounds.
Yeah.
Roughly, we have going through our accounts. You're not on it. And like you said, with all the extra compliance and tiers and, you know, all this sort of stuff. So yeah, you've got to grasp. And Anne's taught me to be a bit better at some of the detailed stuff. And I've rubbed off on her about thinking a bit big picture stuff. Like, you know, in the early days, Anne would never come and go, oh, I've thought about this process. You know, why don't we get this software and we can do that? That would always be me in the early days. Whereas now, like, you know, Anne will turn around and be like, there's got to be a better way to do this. Yeah. Like, you know, but yeah, you've got to understand those bits and pieces. And yeah, I think, look, Roper's an interesting one. I think our industry is it's so nuanced, it's so messy. And again, whenever we talk about it, you know, I think whenever anyone talks about property, you know, we talk about it in this kind of generic way, but at the same time, we also know no two fucking businesses are the same. No. You know, what works for me as a London letting agent is a load of bollocks for someone who's renting like £400 a month cottages in North Wales. Like, we are not going to approach. No, you know, our average client pays us £4,500 a year to let them manage a property for them. Our average rent's £2,500 a month. We earn £4,500 a year. You know, I've been at conferences where, you know, I'll be chatting, doing the usual, having a cigarette outside in between beers. I mean talks. You know, and you invariably start chatting to somebody from Wales who's a salesperson. You're nattering away. Oh, you were, you know, what do you do? Oh, I do this. What do you do? Oh, you know, I run a letting agent. Oh, lettings. And it's like, cool. What's your average sale price? Yeah. Oh, you know, we average probably like £250,000. And your sale fee? Oh, we're about 1.2%. I'm like, cool. So like 2.8, maybe 3. Yeah. Cool. Oh, and obviously that invariably leads to, oh, what about you? Yeah, average rent 2,500, our fees 15%, so like £4,000 a year. And they're like, and it's like, yeah, every year.
And it's the beauty of the lettings business, which I'm lucky to have one. It's one of the things I started when I started, and back then there was a hefty amount of investor buys, buy-to-letters, and so on and so forth. But it gives you that. It's very good to predict. You can predict your business. You can optimize it. There's various ways of improving it, but generally speaking, it's a consistent,
it's very
revenue-led.
And the Renters' Rights Act kind of changes that a little bit. But I mean, we luckily started making a shift to the business about 5 years ago, which has put us in a really good place for the Renters' Rights Act, because we actually, like you said, it's a very predictable business, but a lot of our business happened in the summer months. And everyone's like, oh, why? And it's like, well, it's very simple. Everyone starts their adult life as a student. So everyone starts renting around September. And then 3 years later, or 5 years later, whatever they're doing, they graduate. Yeah. They graduate in July, August. Yeah. So they go off for their first big job in the city or wherever they're going. And you're on that cycle. So, we would do between kind of late July and beginning of October, so kind of 2.5 months, we would generate 65 to 70% of our annual revenue.
Wow.
But that's not always great, right? No, it wasn't always coming in. It's like you pipeline it, but we had that conversation 5 years ago, and we were like, that's great. But our overheads monthly don't change. Our overheads monthly are pretty much flat. So it's like, we've got this like, boom. We get to mid-October and the bank balance is like, oh, that's pretty. Yeah. And then you're like, yeah, but where are we going to be by like June? Yeah. You're like, squeaky bum time. Yeah.
So interesting though.
So we made that, we made that decision of like, well, look, why don't we start making the fees monthly? Yeah. It was like we didn't want to do an instant shift and move everyone, because it is, as we know as business owners, it's always nice to have a bit of cash in the bank, because you never know whether it's an opportunity or whatever, but it's always nice to have that money in the bank. And for us, that enabled us to do the depository. That was the lucky thing we got to do with that. But we looked at that and we were like, actually, why not? Why don't we aim to get like about a third of our clients onto that business model? And then actually we started looking at it for ourselves. But as we've always done with these things, it's like, cool, so that's our benefit. When we pitched this to a client, I was like, clients are going to fucking love this. Because I was like, suddenly we're going from the very traditional split fee model of a chunky upfront letting fee with your much lower monthly management fee, which is always a bit weird, because as we all know, you probably earn your keep much more on the management side than on the letting side. But there we go. Yeah. But actually, we were suddenly like, hold on, this isn't just what we want. I can now turn around to a client and go, hey, that month and a half's rent that would into our bank account, plus the contractor invoices and a sofa, so you wouldn't see rent for 2 months, and you've got to figure out what your cash flow is. How would you like it actually if you've got money in your pocket from month one, every month? Yeah. With foregoing the unknowns, you break down boilers and replacing a sofa. How would you like to have a predictable, consistent revenue throughout the year? Yeah. And again, now we're facing, we've obviously got Making Tax Digital, which is already in our businesses, and quarterly VAT returns, but now obviously with landlords moving into that space, and with where we sit in the market, a lot of our landlords, pretty much any of our landlords with 2 or more properties will hit and come into that first trench in April. Yeah. And again, it helps us and them with that, because it's a lot more predictable, and it's quite funny how these things work out. But fortuitously, with how we're now moving into these periodic contracts, I think there's still. I'm intrigued to see what happens next year. I don't think, in terms of acquisitions, I don't think we've seen anything yet.
Right.
I think next year,
the surface.
From what I hear, the pipelines that the main acquirers have got at the moment are full. Yeah. But not just that, they've got a list like this of businesses waiting, and I think next year it's that perfect storm, isn't it? We've had the budget, and we've got an economy that's a bit Yeah. We've got the Renters' Rights Act on lettings, where for a lot of letting agents, a lot of agents are structured on that big upfront letting fee, no renewal fees. You know, and what landlord, if they're only guaranteed a 3-month tenancy, what landlord's going to be willing to pay you 1, 2, 3 year letting fee, like some agents charged when they do 2 or 3 year contracts? What landlord's going to be willing to do that on the preface of only 3 months? How do you manage that cash flow with all of the legislation, regulation, everything coming in? I think it's a bit of a perfect storm at the moment, and with the ascendancy of AI and automation getting to where it is now, it kind of feels like there's that generational shift happening at the moment. And I think there's a lot of people in our age group, but probably more kind of 5-10 years down the road from us, who've been there, done that. You know, they've done COVID, they've done the global financial crisis, they've done a few things, and they're like, you know what? I think I'm ready to just...
I think
let
so.
this be someone else's problem.
100%. I think it does seem like this going to be a perfect storm. You can see those bigger companies circling, can't you?
But I think there's a really interesting opportunity for independence. It's something I keep talking to Anne about. I'm really intrigued about us potentially acquiring something in the next 12 months.
Where would you go?
We'd stay in London, for sure. For us, I don't want to be the next Lomond or the next Dexers. We don't want to be massive. We get to do 2 really nice things. We run this very cottagey kind of family-owned style business. We started the business with this idea of having 5 branches covering the whole of London and 50 to 80 people working for us and blah, blah, blah. Now we talk about that and it's like, don't want it.
No.
Don't want it. We don't want it. What we have built is a business that we genuinely, 2 or 3 days a year, each of us will wake up and be like, oh. But the other 362 days of the year, we get up and, we still love it coming in and doing this. And I wouldn't want to radically change
so
that.
Much like there's so much to be said about that, about the fact that predictably more so, what your business is doing. And it's consistent and there's reoccurring revenue and you enjoy it. Growth comes with pain. Acquisition will come with pain. You're taking a lot of responsibilities over, and unless you're really geared in that sort of approach and there's a clear purpose behind doing so, it can be messy, can't it? And I think you're right. I think you're right to be very cautious.
In my mind, there's some quite clear objectives. Like we run a very nice, contained, successful business. We're in terms of percentage, because we're not a £1 million plus revenue business, but in terms of percentage, we're a very profitable business in our industry. Well, we sit around 40%.
That's really good.
Which is like between 2 to 3 times the industry average. And that's a very comfortable place to be. And we feel like we can retain the style and the vibe, and Anne loves the relationship she has with our landlords. Like our business is built on the incredible relationship. You talked about, you were great at building rapport. Like I've never met in lettings anyone like Anne. If that woman walks in a door, 95% of the time, 98% of the time she's coming out with the instruction. She will also come out and tell you that person's entire life story. She will know secrets about that person their wife of 30 years has never been told. Like the stuff people disclose in her. But those relationships, that is everything. Like when I've mentioned this to Anne, she's like, oh no, I don't want to be just someone who runs the business and barks orders and doesn't know who my clients are. She's like, knowing who each and every landlord is, knowing every single one of our properties. She's like, I love that.
And that's the thing though, right? She loves that, and I think she would love that more potentially than loving the other stuff. Which comes with growth.
And that's not to say the other stuff, each to their own.
It is each to their own.
Each to their own. There are other people who will sit there listening and be like, Oh my fucking God, I don't want to know my landlord's private lives.
No.
It's a business relationship. All I want them to know is that I'm fucking good at my job
And you'll get
and
your
I will
money.
look after them. And I want it to be, no, I'm good. You're a fair, decent landlord, and that is how it works.
Yeah.
You give me a good property,
Yeah.
I give you a good
Yeah,
service,
yeah.
we do good tenants, and 99% of the time it works out, and when the shit hits the fan, we're there to look after you. And there's no right or wrong with those business models.
Like you said earlier, all the businesses are different. There's different demographics, different markets, different trends. We're all different. We're different business owners. We've got different goals, ambitions, things we enjoy, we don't enjoy. And I think a lot of people should think about that before they make decisions, because actually don't do it on the back of doing it because other people are or following a trend. It's doing what you feel is right for you. And, ultimately, that isn't always about the money.
But I think also my mindset, also about how you operate as a business as well. I kind of matured quite a bit around the whole Purple Bricks thing.
Yeah.
Because we had that furore, and I remember when Purple Bricks first launched, because their marketing
What are they
campaign,
doing now?
which redundancy.
I just don't really.
I think they're doing it's. I mean, look,
because they went employed, didn't they?
My biggest frustration with all of those models is there was very little true disruption.
Yeah.
The only real disruption was we're going to massively undercut an already arguably underpriced industry.
Yeah.
And actually, from a business point of view, when I talked about it, I don't know where this figure comes from, but I know I've heard it from multiple places and it keeps to me itself. There is, on average, agents make about 16% profit. So why on earth would you go and tackle an industry where the average profit margins are already pretty tight and be like, hey,
we're here,
we're gonna undercut you, not by 10%, but by like 50 or 80%.
Yeah.
It's like,
I mean, it's that classic case of high volume, and that's again, it can be a dangerous model. It can have a limited lifespan. And that's what happened.
But Purple Bricks took me on a journey, right? Because when Purple Bricks first launched, there was part of me, the marketeer, who in equal measure loved and hated their fucking campaign.
Oh, God,
because I saw their campaign and I was
yeah.
like, that is fucking genius, because it beautifully leveraged the public perception of agents in a tongue-in-cheek, humorous British way.
Yeah.
But also, as an
favour.
agent that aspires to be a good agent, it was like, and there were many of us who railed, and I remember being very outspoken, unlike me, very outspoken that first kind of 6 months, year. And then I kind of like, after being here for a year, I was just a bit like, why am I angry?
Yeah.
Why is this upsetting me? Because actually, they're not a competitor to me. And that wasn't about arrogance.
No.
That was about, you're a self-serve agent. You're not actually, I understand what it is you're offering. The consumer might be confused, but I know fundamentally what you're offering, which is basically do it yourself. You are the digital equivalent of sticking a post-it note in your local newsagent's office or doing an ad in Loot. And I was like, actually, do you know what? The client that is going to be drawn to you was never going to be a client of mine.
No.
Never.
It's definitely polarized client personas for businesses as well. Like it's helped people to understand that. I mean, I can't remember. I think it was countrywide. They started putting all these different options in, so they were trying to attract that.
Well, they had an identity crisis around Purple Bricks, didn't they?
Yeah.
And they bizarrely even rolled out across all all of their brands a Purple Bricks equivalent offering.
Yeah.
Like, and it was like, oh, you can pay us our normal fee or pay us nothing.
And you've got, I think each business owner will have clients that they've worked with in the last 12 months. They're like their perfect clients. And that's the people. If you want a business that you enjoy working in, you've got to figure out how you reach more of those people. And actually, like you've just said, it's very rare when you're up against a client that's looking for that you actually want to be onboarding those clients anyway, because you know what's going to happen next. They're a pain in the arse.
Well, and that's it, and that's the experience you get with business, right? Isn't it? You start your business, and just because you need the money, you do the deals you need to do because you've got to pay the rent. But then you get to a point, you hopefully get to a point where you can start going, actually, do I like this person, regardless of whether it's the right property or not? Are they someone that I actually want
heard
to
you
do
say
with?
years ago about you had a little period. I may have interviewed you on something as well about this, but I think you had a period where you sacked a load of clients.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we had like 10 clients.
Yeah.
We had 10 clients, and we reckon they were taking up like 80% of our resource.
And you just went, see ya.
And we wrote them a very polite email. It was like, I think it was actually 8. I think it was 8 clients. And we wrote them a very polite email, which was all the same thing, going, we want to thank you so much. Because most of them had been with us for a few years by then, like 3, 4, 5 years. And we just wrote them an email saying, like, we would like to thank you so much for your loyal business for the last however many years. However, we feel like we've kind of changed and grown as an agency, and we feel like where we're heading isn't necessarily aligned. So we feel like, you'd probably be better served by another agent.
Yeah.
At the end of the next tenancy, that will be the end of things, and we will tidy things up neatly, but, best of luck. And 4 of them, we either got nothing back from, or it was literally like, fine. Basically, didn't like you anyway, The other 4 were on the phone within minutes of that email landing in their inbox, being like, what have I done? What do you mean? You guys are fucking amazing. And what was great out of that was that then led to some really honest conversations. Because we expected all 8 of them just to be like, yeah, fuck you too.
See you later.
Yeah. I didn't know you. But I didn't know you anyway.
But what a great thing, though.
And we had, particularly one of the clients is still a client of ours to this day. In fact, 2 of those are still a client to this day. So they've been with us 17, 18, 19 of our nearly 21 years. Like I said, within minutes they were on the phone. And it just led to these really honest conversations of going, with most of those, it was like, on any given day, we are either the best agent in the universe or the biggest piece of shit you've ever met. And we're like, we don't know which one it is. It just depends, it doesn't matter. Yeah. It doesn't matter. We'll call you up one day and we've done something quite normal and you're like, oh my God, you guys are amazing. And then we'll call you up one day and we've actually managed a really difficult matter for you really well. And you turn around and go, listen, you feckless idiots, what the hell do I pay you for? And it's like, which one is it? We can't be both.
Yeah.
And you've just got to be more fair. We get it. We're an agent, you trust us, sometimes you feel like you can talk to us in any which way. You really can't.
Yeah.
Or at least you can't with our team. Yeah. Right? If you really want to vent, come to me.
Well, I remember hearing that from you. I'm talking, was that about 4 or 5 years ago?
Probably 10 years ago.
Okay, so I think I heard it back then.
But I think we probably only said it 2 or 3 years later.
And I talked to my ladies about it. I said, if you had the choice, who would you? And, it became pretty clear. And then we started a little bit of a conversation with certain clients up in fees, doing different things, but making things a bit clearer for people that, look, we're not here for that.
Yeah.
We're here for this.
Yeah.
And actually, that was a good learn from you on that.
And it's interesting when you have that conversation, Tony, because like you said, I've heard other agents do the same thing when they've heard that. They've been like, right, like you said, depending on the size of the business, if you could get rid, like you say, if you could get rid of, say, 3 landlords today, who would they be? You won't even get a fucking heartbeat in before you get at least 2 of those names.
Who's the arsehole?
Boom and boom. And it's like, and you just see the whole office go, and you're like, yeah,
But see, the thing is, I always had this kind of belief that, I can work a way round and figure out what it is we could do to improve. No, my mindset now
we can win them over.
We just shouldn't work with them. It's really simple. And we're more like that in sales now, which to some degree has probably been unhelpful at times. But I actually believe.
But I think in sales, I think it's even truer in sales because I think again, like in sales, you guys do so much fucking work up front. You
for nothing.
Oh my fucking god! That's why I walked away from sales because I can't.
I think that might change. I genuinely think that the agents that are just getting better and attracting their ideal clients, those clients will value what they do more, and more can be spread across the journey with upfront
blended fees and whatever you want to call it, and also I love this thing that Charlie Lambden's been championing, not his doom, death and destruction of the property market, but this thing of you don't go in for evaluation, you go in to convey your expertise.
Yeah,
it's not about the market determines price. So it doesn't matter if you have one agent in or 8 agents in, the market and the buyer 99% of the time determines the price you're going to sell for. So that shouldn't be the conversation.
I completely agree. And Charlie and Chris were on my show, and they we were talking about this. And actually, I'm a big fan of not giving a price, as in, this is what you're going to sell the house for, this is what you should put it on the market for. It's more a conversation around the strategy of the price and the marketing.
And the preparation in sales.
Yeah, and the fact
how it presents. Getting all the documents and legals in place.
And you don't get the best price unless you've got the best buyer looking at it. Yeah. So we don't know at the minute what that looks like until we sit down and have a conversation. So I'm with you on that one.
Well, Matt Baldock, I love Matt Baldock said something. Oh fuck! I've got to get this one right now. That's right. He said a marketing price should feel slightly uncomfortable to a seller.
Yeah.
So it feels attractive to a buyer.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, when you've got a sale price, and the owner's like, really? That much? Okay. Sometimes they've lived in the house 30 years and they haven't followed the local market, unlike 95% of the population, and they are genuinely blown away.
Yeah.
But more often than not, we know that's not the case.
We do know that's not the case.
And when you get a vendor going, ooh, that's better than I expected, you know, you're probably... Oh,
well, that's the absolute maximum.
You're a little bit too happy about that. I might need to run this by the team, but it was a great, and I've had this conversation. I've used that line from Matt with my family recently. My family recently, several members of my family have kind of sold properties in the last few years, and I'm there giving advice. Do you want to sell it? Absolutely fucking not. Family and friends, no, I will be a consultant.
I can help you.
I will give you advice. I will then watch you ignore 80% of that advice and be very thankful I didn't take on your property. That thing about pricing is a huge thing. Because my sister most recently, she was like, oh, we need to sell for X. And I was like, cool, that's not how the market works. And she's like, I'm like, how have you arrived at that figure? Oh, well, my partner's going to sell his property for this, and if I sell this for that, then we can buy a property for that and put. And I'm, that's not how that works.
No, but the problem is, and I think a majority of the years I've been in the industry, probably 70-80% of the time, prices have been inflating or improving or growing or whatever you call it.
Yeah, they go up more often than they go down.
Yeah, at different rates.
Because the down tends to be quite. Short, sharp and painful, and then we get back to growing again. And
so most clients have probably moved in one of those markets before, and they tend to see when they're selling an improvement on what they paid for it. Now that's come into question a little bit in the last 5-7 years.
In London, last 10-12 years.
10-12 years.
We've got clients selling for less than they bought 10 years ago. Not massively.
Yeah.
But not the double.
No. So there's a gradual education piece around that, but you bang on the money. I love that. I've not heard Matt say that, but it's a really good
he said it
analogy.
A couple of years ago, and the moment he said it, I was like, fucking genius. I was like, people, this is about marketing.
Right.
Marketing is not about selling. How we present your house, where we position it in the market, has not fuck all, but that is not directly correlated to the price we're going to get. As you touched on earlier, that is about getting the right pool of buyers.
Absolutely.
Because as we all know, you can have 20 buyers who are like, about a house.
Well, I've
you
said
might
to,
not
I've said
sell
to clients,
it.
I've
You
said
can
to
have
clients,
2 buyers
absolutely,
who will dive to get that fucking house.
They're emotionally
and we all
bought in.
know that's what we want.
Yeah.
That's what you want.
You know, as a seller, do you want to create competition on the sale of your home, or do you want to chase buyers?
Yeah.
And chasing buyers is desperation. So that's
it always feels icky, right?
Yeah, and you drop, and then you drop again, and then you drop again, and all of a sudden you're at this point whereby you're below the expectations and probably the price you would have achieved if you'd done it properly from the off. But I think agents are getting to grips with stats, stories, sharing a little bit more, educating a little bit more. You're always going to have the promises, you know, the nicest possible way. There have always been 2 ways of winning a listing in most agents' mind. That is to quote the highest price and the lowest fee. And in rising markets,
we also
had
know
some success at that.
And we also know there are other problems that drive these issues within our market.
Yeah.
You know, let's tell it as how it is, particularly with the larger businesses. We've got people and their job is to bring on 30 listings a month.
Yeah.
There is no contingency to that. There is not 30 listings, all of which must sell within a year. It's not 30 listings, half of which must sell within 6 months.
No.
There is no, it is, you will bring on 30 listings or you will not get your bonus.
Yeah.
And so when a lister's sole purpose, and also zero accountability when their job ends at the listing.
Yeah.
When their only job is to get in that door, get the job signed, get them to sign for the upsell social media pack for 400 quid. And then, it's all yours. But you can't blame someone.
No.
I mean, you can't blame someone where that is all they are trained to do. And when you haven't got a manager sat down going, you know what, rather than Frank and Sarah bringing in 50 listings together each month, but out of the 600 properties a year, we're selling 300, we're getting 310 under offer, and actually we're only getting about 220 over the line.
Yeah.
And you look at the resource and the bonuses you're paying out on all that, and then you're like, hold on, we could actually be taking on like 250 properties and selling 220 and have like a client satisfaction rating that goes from 40% to 80%, we're generating the same fucking revenue because we're still selling the same number of houses.
On that, aren't you? You're going to build on that.
And you haven't got agents just being busy. You haven't got agents just filling up their diary because they have to do 5 viewings a day.
Yeah.
You know, because they have to bring on.
We're not in that place anymore.
We've got. Unfortunately, it is still
No.
there.
What I mean by that,
it is still there. But
we are in the place. There are models, bigger, larger corporates that do that, and that is because it's a loss leader to the financial services or the other things, the spin-offs, which they're going to get. But yeah, I think a lot of agents have moved or are moving away, and they're looking at their cost per sale. And you know, let's be honest, if you're running a business with higher costs now, you have to look at that, because if you're spending money on 50% of your listings that never sell and actually damage your reputation, it's not a really good move.
It's another property sat on the market with the board, with the price reduced, and then going off, and someone at dinner time to me like, fucking, they promised me the fucking earth. 3 months later, I've had 2 people through the front door, and they're talking about the fact I'm still locked in for another 6 weeks on the contract. But you know, another 300 quid on their social media like plus package, and that'll solve the problem.
Yeah.
You know, it's there's still that bit, and I think that I get it. With bigger businesses, it's tricky.
Yeah,
their
model's built.
It's very
like
tricky,
changing,
and like you said, they often have other priorities.
Well, there are. It's like the school system. It's structure. It's hard to bring it away from that corporate structure. They have a model which, you know, kind of works, I suppose, because it's bolstering other revenue.
So education, we're going to quickly, and it's a bit of a pivot from where we were, but we'll kind of do this bit and then we'll wrap up, because we're getting good on the waffle. We're clocking in about 1 hour 20 now.
My bladder's catching up as well.
That's old age, mate. That's what turning 50 does to you, I've heard.
Yeah.
But education, something you alluded to, because you were talking about how, you know, how you found education and what kind of did or didn't appeal to you. And I think that is quite a common story again with people who come into agency. They weren't academically gifted, or however the fuck you want to phrase it. But coming back to also the youth and giving people tools, I think something that I've had a conversation with lots of people many years running businesses is what our schools teach us. And I was fascinated to hear the government announce, I think it's 2027, they're going to start teaching in schools about like mortgages, insurance, like
I haven't heard
pensions
that.
and investments.
Well, that's impressive.
Which I was like, ooh, that's cool, because that absolutely wasn't fucking spoken about. But it was then, it's then, and like I said, I've had this conversation before, but it's like, what else should we be teaching our kids in a practical, day-to-day sense? Like, what are the basics around taxes? Like, what's involved with forming a company? What is involved? Like, how does tax work?
I stood in a school, 150 kids, a year that were leaving the school at the age of 15, 16. They were coming up to their exams. And I was really interested to ask some questions about how many were looking to own their own business one day. And you're like less than 5% put their hands up. And by the way, I'd already had the engagement with them before I asked that question, because I wouldn't just go in with that question.
Yeah.
But
hey guys,
by the way, but
weird old man from down the street.
Yeah, I know. And honestly, that was the last time I spoke. But no, it was good, but that was sad. It was sad because,
which is fascinating, because the perception of the youth of today is like, they're so entrepreneurial because it's the digital landscape. Anyone can launch anything from their bedroom.
I don't know, it's probably 4 or 5 years ago. I can't remember exactly how long, but it was really sad to think that actually, and by the way, after that, I was saying you can do it like this, and actually you're then doing X, Y, and Z, which you enjoy. But it was weird, and I think entrepreneurship's must be a bigger subject now in this current day and age with AI and everything else and automation, where you don't have to be massively intelligent to run your own business. What you do need to have is a business that you enjoy running.
But I think it's also that thing of the moment you talk about business, people instantly perceive,
well, it's tough. I remember being that age though and thinking, God, how do my parents cope with managing a house, let alone a business? You'd see letters, bills and everything else, and you'd see the all of the stuff that kind of goes on. And I remember thinking at 14, 15, God, I'll never own a house, because I just thought, shit, it looks really difficult. Because anything like that to me, anything detail wise or anything like, and this is what I was trying to say, that actually, it doesn't mean you can't run a business. What you can do is find people around you to help you run that business. And, you work with people with different strengths. Like you sit in a classroom, everyone's different, right? So I think kids should learn more about entrepreneurship.
Yeah, I think just the day-to-day. Is it entrepreneurship? Or is it just kind of that financial kind of fortitude and independence? Because you don't have to aspire to do lots of different businesses. You don't have to aspire to build a big business. That could be you at home doing something that you passionately love, and yet through having this basic skill set and leveraging some cool bits of software and teaching yourself a few new skills, you can earn a living doing something you love, rather than sat in a call centre doing some soulless job you don't want to be, because
you don't want to go, you hate it,
bills.
Then you hate your job, you're doing it 40 hours a week, plays quite a big part in how you feel about yourself. So it's, that for me, the investment in the individual's understanding of their strengths, plus equipping them with the real life skills. Precisely.
Dude, we could keep talking forever. There was a couple of things I had in my head, but we've definitely clocked this one in for today. So I'm going to let
Bloody
you.
hell, we have gone, haven't we?
We have done well. It's a good hour 20. I think this might be my second longest chat so far.
Well, at least we got quite a lot covered, I would say.
We put two old men in comfy chairs, and
it's bloody comfy. I've got to be honest.
But dude, it's been an absolute joy. Thank you for having me down, guys. Thank you for joining us for another podcast. Hopefully that was fun and interesting. Be really interesting to hear some of your thoughts on some of the things we've talked about. But culture, but particularly I think. We keep coming back, keep having conversations at the moment about talent into the industry and young people and what that looks like and how we kind of frame that and support that and make our industry more attractive, but also support young people and make them a little bit more resilient and optimistic about what lies ahead, especially in this doom and gloom media generation that we seem to be in right now. So, but anyway, hopefully some fun bits and pieces there. And another one coming soon. Matt, pleasure.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.